It's funny because we never even told. I don't think me and Ben said that he wasn't going to be here. So this might come as a shock to a lot of people.
That Ben wasn't going to be here.
Yeah.
Well, just pretend that I'm.
Yeah.
Let me talk about it.
Don't adjust your TV sets. This is not Ben Kahn and Emil DeRosa. This is Emil DeRosa and Kyla Scanlon. Ben is down under in Australia.
Yeah.
And we're very lucky to have a new co-host, Kyla Scanlon. You guys know her from everywhere. TikTok, social media, Instagram. You've seen her on
Twitter.
YouTube, Twitter. She just interviewed Mary Daly, San Francisco Fed president and CEO.
Yeah.
She just did a presentation at MIT Graduate School of Business, Sloan.
Yes.
Not the undergrad kids, the graduate school.
Right.
That's big stuff.
Gotta separate it out.
And she's here with us today to talk about the House of the Dragons finale. Is that right?
Right. What is that Game of Thrones?
Oh, this is bad. 'Cause all my questions are House of the Dragons.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. I don't.
Shit. Okay, let me see if I've got anything. No, it's just
I'm prepared to comment.
What did you think when that guy got chomped? Okay. No, we're not going to talk about House of the Dragons. We're going to talk about the economy. We're going to do a big freaking bird's eye view of the economy.
Yay. I love the economy.
Do you love the economy?
Yeah.
Oh, before we get started, I have to say, so every time we've had a guest, I would say it's been not great. People say,
"Oh no,
fuck you guys, don't have this person on again." But when we had you on, everyone was like, "This is the best episode." And we still get comments that are like, "Bring Kyla back."
Oh gosh, well.
And when I knew we were having you back on, I was like, "Just wait." Even once we booked you, we still had people going, "I want Kyla."
That's exciting.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
So am I. Because, I mean, we've got to have at least one guest people like.
Oh. I like all your guests. I think all of them are.
No, they were all great.
Yeah.
Yeah. But universal praise for your episode.
Well, thanks, everybody.
We're going to add some applause in there. Alex will do it. Welcome back to Honky and the Beat Band.
Kramer, when I get done with you, are you ready for a Trillionaire mindset?
Fill me up, Arrow.
Bitcoin solves this. Bitcoin 100,000.
We do have to give the disclaimer again. You got to check it in the description box.
Yeah, we should just jump right in because Kyla has so much stuff to talk to us about. We're gonna go around the world a little bit, talk about what's going on. Then we're gonna zoom back in, talk about what's going on here.
Yep.
In Los Angeles. So let's start in.
Oh no.
It doesn't matter. Oh wait, before we.
I can fix that.
Before we even do that, I also want to say we haven't covered this yet because I honestly didn't think it would end up happening, and I'm sure you guys have heard. But the Phillies are in the World Series, and that's a big deal for us because if you haven't heard, every time the Phillies win the World Series, there is there's an economic downturn. So before they were the Phillies, they were the Athletics in Philadelphia. They won in 1929 and 1930. Not great years for the world economy. They won in 1980. And then in 2008. So this episode comes out on a Friday. I think game 1 is tonight. I'm not a big sports guy, but if you want everything to be okay, root against them.
Root against the Phillies. Yeah. Correlation is causation for sure.
Yeah. In my mind, our entire world economy is hanging on this.
On the Phillies. On baseball.
I think of myself as not a superstitious person, but when I saw these stories, I was like,
it is a little scary.
I was like, let's turn our baseball hats inside out.
Yeah.
Rally caps.
Yeah. There's also the Avatar movie was released in 2008.
Oh,
and they're
shit.
re-releasing it, right?
James Cameron,
Yeah.
also responsible.
Yeah, for Recessions.
So guys, don't yell at politicians. Don't yell at
Yeah.
presidents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Find James Cameron's house
And the Phillies.
and go to the Phillies' houses
Houses.
and let them know.
Let them know. Protect the economy. What a mess.
Okay, should we talk about the UK first
Sure.
and what's going on?
Yeah.
They just picked their new
PM.
PM and they chose the head of lettuce.
It seemed like that for a while. Yeah, no, it's interesting. I mean, it seems like things have calmed down quite a bit, but for a while it was just like, what is going on?
Right.
Yeah.
They picked Rishi Sunak
Mhm.
to succeed Liz Truss.
Liz Truss, yeah.
Because I thought Liz was going to be the girl. I thought in Liz we trust,
Yeah.
but not so much.
Yeah.
Do you think Rishi Sunak can right the ship?
I don't know. We'll see. I mean, it'll depend. They're re-releasing the fiscal package on October 31st. So it'll
Spooky.
depend. Yeah, right? But it'll depend on that. Yeah, and what that says.
Right. And, there's some reason to have some confidence in Rishi, right? Because he was against Liz's proposals, right?
Yeah.
I believe he was calling them Fantasyland or fairy tale
I think,
economics.
yeah, Fantasyland, yeah.
So there's some reason to have some confidence in him. I think other people are a bit disappointed. I don't know if you saw, people were comparing his wealth to the king's wealth.
Oh.
So Rishi Sunak is richer than
No
the King of
way.
England.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Between his wife is very wealthy
Right.
from her father's company.
Yeah.
And they were in some hot water because of,
Didn't she evade taxes?
Yeah.
So, yeah, cool. Okay.
but then she got caught and she was like, all right, I'll pay the taxes.
My bad.
Yeah. Even though her, husband was responsible for setting some of the, tax policy and everything.
Sure.
Also, we got to shout out, he's a Stanford business school guy. Kind of our rival show. They don't know it, but they're our rival.
Oh, really?
Yeah. For a very specific weird
for-
joke that we did with our fans.
Oh, really?
But Stanford Business School doesn't know we exist, I'm sure.
I'm sure they know. They're aware. Why wouldn't they be aware?
I don't know. I hope they're aware.
Well, yeah, you just have to think positively.
Right. But so another reason we don't mess with Rishi.
Yeah. Well, and hopefully, I don't know. It'll depend on what markets decide. Like if they like Rishi, that's the most important thing right
Markets really decided they didn't like Liz.
now. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So can you explain what happened a little bit?
Yeah. So they released their fiscal package, like Liz Truss and everything. And it was really inflationary. Like it was tax cuts and a bunch of fiscal spending, and markets did not like that. And so the pound cratered, their currency, get yield soared, and it was just super bad for a while. And then the Bank of England had to step in because their pension funds were about to implode because they had this exposure to liability-driven investments. And so if all of a sudden, get yields are soaring, that means that these LDIs are going to be under a lot of pressure. So the pension funds were under a lot of pressure. So the Bank of England had to step in, fix everything. And the markets just were very clear that they were not happy about this inflationary fiscal package that was put forward.
Right. I'm confused. What was Liz thinking? Like, do you think she was like, this is my Margaret Thatcher moment. We're gonna,
I mean, I think what's really interesting right now about all governments, and even in the United States, because we have midterms coming up, is the politicking versus actual governance. So there was no sense in the package being passed. The package itself didn't really make a whole lot of sense. It was much more politics versus actual governing.
Right.
So I think it's that sort of stuff where you have governments who are just sort of focused on the next re-election, on the next way to gain more power. And that's a really broad brush to paint across all governments, but I think that's the big problem.
Yeah. But I think that's where it's hard to piece together, right? Because I don't know when their election is, but, it's hard to think oh, this is going to win people over. This is going to win people to the Conservative Party.
Mm-hmm.
I know times are tough right now, but we're slashing taxes for the rich.
Mm-hmm.
We're I think they were releasing limits on bankers' bonuses and everything. It's hard to see that as a positive outcome for the Conservative Party in Britain.
Yeah. Obviously, it didn't work out that well. Yeah.
Right. A lot of people are talking about Liz Truss. She accomplished a lot of things that like the British left could not. She killed the Queen. She didn't
Single-handedly.
maybe. She killed the Conservative Party.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. Lots of changes happening for that sort of stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
And weren't you saying there's a lot that, the U.S. could learn from what is going on in Britain?
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's going to have to be specifically on the monetary policy side, like how the markets responded is important to pay attention to. And I don't like, a lot of people will be like, oh, if you're saying that markets basically dictated what happened to Liz Truss, you're saying that democracy can't exist under capitalism, which is like, I don't know if that's true or not. I think it has to exist.
No, she thinks it's true.
I'm not saying, well, it's just interesting because so you have fiscal policymakers, so people like Liz Truss, people like Joe Biden, like the US government, the UK government, and then you also have monetary policy decision makers. So here in the United States, the Federal Reserve, over there, the Bank of England, and then you also have like markets now, and
right.
You've always had markets, like they've always been the final judge of policy. But for the United States specifically, like how markets responded to this in this fiscal package that was put forward, the United States is going to have to pay attention to that. And I don't like, there's different measures in place that we won't have that same sort of fallout. Like we don't have pension funds that are overly exposed to that sort of leverage that was in the liability driven investments, but it's still like something that is important to watch, is like market fundamentalism and how that plays out. Yeah.
Hey guys, we want to take a quick break to thank a sponsor of today's episode, BetterHelp. I often get stuck focusing on problems instead of solutions. It can be tough to train your brain to stay in problem-solving mode when faced with a challenge in life. But when you learn how to find your own solutions, there's no better feeling. A therapist can help you become a better problem solver, making it easier to accomplish your goals no matter how big or small. I've known a lot of people who have gone to therapy and really liked it. I'm one of those people. I also believe that I waited too long to. I thought it couldn't help me, and I've gotten a lot out of it. I've talked to a lot of people who thought it wasn't for them, but most of them ended up getting something positive from the experience. Check out BetterHelp. If you're thinking of giving therapy a try, BetterHelp is a great option. It's convenient, accessible, affordable, and entirely online. Get matched with a therapist after filling out a brief survey and switch therapists anytime. When you want to be a better problem solver, therapy can get you there. Visit betterhelp.com/trill today to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/trill. I don't think we really have pension funds here.
Yeah, nobody retires. You just work until you
Our
die.
retirement plan is to work until you're dead.
Yeah, and that's
mine.
That's mine too.
Wait, real quick before we move on, can you explain a little bit that the difference between monetary policy and fiscal policy? Because I think we're going to talk about that a lot, and I want people to.
Yeah. So monetary policy is basically the central banks deciding what to do. And here in the United States, the central banks have a political mandate where they are responsible for maximum employment and price stability. So Congress gives them that mandate, and they're like, here you go, like you take care of that, you take care of the monetary policy side of things. And then the fiscal policy side of things is the US government. So what the government decides to do, what politicians decide to do, it's that side. So it's two different sides. So like here in the United States, the central bank is a independent body, but it still has like a mandate from Congress. Yeah, the Fed.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Should we move on to China a little bit? Didn't you want to talk about?
Yeah, sure.
Well, I don't want. Well, China just picked. China just had their.
They just picked.
No, that's bad. That's a bad way to say it. Xi Jinping cemented his power.
Yes, very much so.
Again, markets did not like it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
But I think they might have less say in China.
Yeah, well, the U.S. markets didn't. Oh, it was interesting though, because J.P. Morgan was like, now it's a great buying opportunity to get into China stocks, and it's like, but yeah, I mean, now if you have exposure to China, you have exposure to Xi, so it's kind of, it's a tough spot. There was a really good video from this former, I think he was a Singapore prime minister. I messed that up. Or Singapore cabinet member. And he was sort of talking about like what China's plan is. And for them, like they can kind of move slowly. They don't have to respond to political pressures in the same way that the United States does. And so they're just, like there's a lot of pressures on their economy right now, and that's why they released their metrics so late. And that's also what investors didn't like, was how concerning it is that a lot of these numbers are increasingly being papered over.
Right.
Yeah.
And what are some of those things that's affecting the Chinese economy so heavily?
Well, the property sector. So over there, real estate is huge. Like people get a lot of exposure to real estate. It's one of the main ways to build wealth, and that's been cratering. And also there's a lot of insulation from outside investment. So like nobody really knows what goes on because they all do internal auditing. So there isn't a lot of knowledge about what's actually happening behind the scenes. So like that aspect of it makes it less attractive to outside investment. And then also internally, their property sector isn't doing very well. And then also the lockdowns, they've been under lockdown for a long time.
A lot of people might not be aware, but they're still doing, I think they still have the zero COVID policies in place.
Yeah. And they're easing back on that for sure.
They are?
I think so.
Okay.
It's not coming up as much. But I mean, they're still like, if that was happening here in the United States, it would be.
Yeah, I think people are very unhappy there about it. It sounds like, there's a.
Where is that?
Where?
Yeah.
Come on, make it up.
Fiji.
Fiji?
Yeah, that's in Fiji.
Oh, nice. I've never been there. We were talking about China.
Oh, zero COVID policies.
Yeah, and that's really bad for your economy, really bad for demand, and consumer spending is a huge portion of how economies grow. So it's just not great. Yeah.
Not great, no.
Yeah.
Also, I'm pretty sure they have like a lower vaccination rate, but there are plans to get that rate up. And if they start getting more people vaccinated, they can open up more effectively.
Yeah.
Also, do you know anything about is it called the Chips and Science Act?
No.
Oh, really?
Yeah, tell me.
With the Congress passed the Chips and Science Act, they want the U.S. to become more competitive with, producing chips here, and not only more competitive, I think, to hedge against like geopolitical events, or not only even if there's more outbreaks of COVID, things that slow down microchip production.
More domestic production of all of those things, ideally. Yeah.
And also isolating China from American-made chips. Anywhere in the process of making the chips, if American industry touch them, China cannot, which is going to be hard for China to be isolated from that production.
Can America do that easily, though?
We're kind of seeing it being implemented now. I was actually pretty surprised at how quickly it happened. I think Joe Biden the Biden administration issued an order because they don't even want Americans working for Chinese companies anymore. So I saw that. I think Americans who were working in chip production at Chinese companies, I think they told them either quit or renounce your citizenship. It's your option, which I was surprised about.
Man.
So that is also going to be hard for the Chinese economy.
Well, and also probably not ideal for the United States, just because, the two countries have so much exposure to each other.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, I guess if that makes it, that's tough. And like also, it does seem like the United States has talked about this before. Like Janet Yellen has been really focused, who's the head of the Treasury. Yeah, Treasury Secretary. She's talked a lot about friendshoring and how we have to
talked about what?
Friendshoring.
Friendshoring?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's essentially what you're saying to a certain extent, like getting production away from China, from other nations that maybe we don't agree with to a certain extent, or the United States doesn't agree with to a certain extent on views.
Sure.
So that's the goal, and there's that's good to a certain extent, and it's bad to a certain extent. Just we've gotten really used to globalization. We've gotten really used to 2-day shipping, and that's not going to go away. But I think these efficiencies that we've expected in modern life are going to be pressured by these signs of deglobalization that we seem to be experiencing.
Right.
Yeah.
They might go away though.
What would go ahead?
Like, 2-day shipping and
It's
some of
pretty
these
wild.
inconveniences, like some of these conveniences we've become
Yeah.
accustomed to.
There was an article in The Atlantic by Derek Thompson that was interviewing a postal worker who, sorts up throughout all the packages from Amazon. And he's like, I have to get in at 1:00 in the morning, sort through these packages. It's like insane physical labor. And it's just so you all can have packages on Sunday and have packages on holidays. So we've almost gotten used to these efficiencies in a way that probably isn't net good for society.
Yeah. Oh, I mean,
yeah, that's another
we should
obvious
send
statement.
Derek to an Amazon warehouse. I mean, but that's we kind of have come to realize, we can't have these conveniences without some human suffering.
Yeah.
And I guess we have to decide
How much suffering
is okay to get,
Well, and that also, that's an interesting point too, is the labor market. So the labor market is very tight right now to a certain extent. So people can demand what they want from their employers because it's like, well, you have to have a job and you have to have people working. And so I wonder if we'll see more worker power come in just because employers need these people to work. Labor market has been historically tight. And so that could put some pressure on the idea of efficiencies too.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Not to jump ahead, but that kind of
Is ahead.
well, that leads me to something I want to talk about a little bit with the Fed.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, we talked about this a little bit, but I said we'll save it for the show. But
Yeah.
I wanted to text you about because when I watch everything going on with the Fed and the economy, it's hard to it's hard to figure out what I want to happen. But genuinely, what I want to happen is for us to get out of this situation with as little suffering for ordinary people as possible. Extraordinary people, though, I don't care how much they suffer.
Like Mark Zuck, he's lost 70 billion.
Yeah, great, so fun, right?
Probably more now. Yeah.
Someone actually just texted me before it started and said, I guess Facebook is now worth less than Home Depot.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So
Meta, you mean?
no one out, Meta. Sorry,
Meta.
no one out homes the depot. But among progressives, there are these kind of two different arguments about what the Fed is doing, because we're experiencing one of the fastest rate hikes in history. Some people are very upset about that. They're saying that Jerome Powell is intending to cause a recession. He wants people thrown out of work. And then kind of the other side, people are saying, no, this low rate environment is what caused a huge amount of a ever widening wealth gap. It made borrowing very easy for the wealthy. It kind of led to the financialization of everything. Mm-hmm. And what you were talking about with the labor market is, I think I fall more on the side of him raising rates as quickly as he is I don't think he's as explicit as maybe someone like Larry Summers, who's we got to get the unemployment rate up to over 5%. And it's at about it's lower than 3.5%.
Yeah.
But when people say things like that, they're talking about millions of people losing
millions. Yeah.
And
that'd probably be 2 million people losing their jobs.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's a huge deal.
It's a huge deal.
But people, you say the numbers and you're like, well, 1.5%. What's
it doesn't sound like
the difference is a couple million people out of work.
Mm-hmm.
Are you wasting money on subscriptions? 80% of people have subscriptions they forgot about. Maybe for you, it's an unused Amazon Prime account or a Hulu account that never gets streamed. There's this great app I use that helps me track all of my expenses, and because of it, I no longer waste money on subscriptions I don't even use. You might have heard of it. It's called Rocket Money, formerly known as Truebill. I always have, my credit card, I'm always getting things I don't know I'm signed up for, and it drives me crazy because I'm like, how much money am I losing out on every month for things that I don't even use? My gym membership for, back in New York was my biggest one. I didn't even live there. So that's why I love Rocket Money. The app shows all your subscriptions in one place and then cancels for you whatever you don't still want. Rocket Money can even find subscriptions you didn't know you were paying for. You may even find out you've been double charged for a subscription. To cancel a subscription, all you have to do is press cancel, and Rocket Money takes care of the rest. Get rid of useless subscriptions with Rocket Money now. Go to rocketmoney.com/Trill. Seriously, it could save you hundreds per year. That's rocketmoney.com/Trill. Cancel your unnecessary subscriptions right now at rocketmoney.com/Trill. And, I tend to think that, a tight labor market can be good. I think if people are demanding things, I'd much rather see us deal with it that way. But yeah, where do you shake out on this? I know you told me that your thoughts on the Fed have changed a little bit since the last time we talked. So I'd love to hear about what that is.
Yeah. Well, the economy has changed
right
since the last time we talked. But I think you're totally right that it's really difficult to have that conversation and to see the headlines. And this is something I get asked a lot, where it's like, why does the Fed want people to lose their jobs? Like, that doesn't even sound like a plausible thing. But the whole thing is like, they want people to lose their jobs so the economy slows down, so inflation goes down. And in their eyes, people losing their jobs and not demanding as much money from their employers will help inflation go down. If inflation goes down, then everybody will be happy again. And then everyone can get back up. Like, and I think the issue with that is like, it is sort of like suffer in the short term for benefits in the long term. But there isn't a promise that the long term will play out that way, right?
Right.
So I think I agree with you that if we're in an environment where workers can demand more from their employers, that's really good. Like, there's a research paper that talks about how a lot of people are underpaid, obviously, right? Like, they should be demanding more. They can get more out of their employer. And so I'm not saying, like, I don't know what I'm saying with that, but I do think that what the Fed is doing is tough to swallow, because it's all these different lines that are kind of like pointing to this one direction of get inflation down. But also they're using demand side tools, which a lot of people pointed out, using demand side tools to fight supply side inflation. And there's a video from Katie Porter who's talking about, 50% of inflation is to a certain extent corporate profits. Yeah.
Which is wild.
And obviously inflation is global. It's an energy crisis. It's a supply chain crisis. It's all these different things. But to say like, oh, you people just need to stop buying so many things.
Right. It feels ridiculous.
Yeah. And like the issue is like the Fed is doing the best they can with what they have. Right. So they have a really blunt tool to raise rates, to shrink their balance sheet. And that is to make people stop demanding things. And so inflation goes down. But the issue with that is if you don't fix the underlying problem of we don't have enough energy production, we don't have enough food production, we don't really have the right allocation of labor, right? Like if you just stopped, like what they're doing is putting a Band-Aid on like a gushing wound. Right. It's going to keep on bleeding through the Band-Aid, which is really gory, but yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that reminds me of, I watched your talk with Mary Daly. Oh. Everyone should go watch it. It's very cool. Were you very excited to talk to a Fed president? That's like a rock star for you.
Yeah, no, it was. We got on the call and like the initial call, and they were like, "Oh, we're a big fan of you," and I was like, "Shut up!" Like,
shut up.
And she said she watched one of my videos where I had props in the video, and she's like, "Oh, I saw that one," and I was like, "This is so embarrassing." But anyway,
No, she was. I mean, she was very cool. And speaking of, the stuff we were talking about,
her story's cool too.
Yeah, the stuff we were talking about with Rishi. I'm glad you asked her about her story because that's one of the things people are pissed about Rishi getting in. They're saying, we're living through a crisis and this is going to be the guy going out to have a conversation and say, I know this is going to affect working class people. Like, we're really sorry that you have to suffer through it. And it's like, you don't fucking know. But, she talks about how I think she had to drop out of high school when her...
Yeah, had to get jobs.
When her parents lost their jobs in an economic downturn. It must have been the 80s. I'm just guessing from her age. Mm-hmm. But you, what's that?
So she lived through a high inflationary time too. So I think it was the 70s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. But then you had asked her about their relationship with the U.S. government, right? Like, the relationship between fiscal and monetary policy. I don't know. I feel like maybe she misunderstood the question a little bit or something, or maybe just didn't want to talk about that because she said, well, we don't have one. We're an independent body. And she talked about how they just have the one tool, which honestly always feels so ridiculous where we task them with this huge thing and they're like, you have the one tool. Go ahead, do it.
Yeah.
Fix the whole house.
Yeah. And like the way that they figured out that worked back when the Fed was founded in like 1913, it was a mistake. Like open market operations, which is what they do to like nudge around rates. It was a mistake. Like they were like, oh, this kind of moves interest rates around. Like, let's use this.
Really?
Yeah.
It's like when It's like when scientists are trying to
Yeah.
figure out like a heart medicine, and they're like, I don't know, it makes your dick hard. Here's
Yeah.
Viagra.
Or the guy who founded acid. Wasn't that?
Oh,
an
yeah,
accident
yeah,
too?
yeah.
Yeah.
hmm
Yeah.
He
Viagra
accidentally
was an
ingested
accident
some.
too.
Yeah. I feel like pretty much every medicine,
Is an accident.
they're like, we're gonna fix this, and then they're like, I don't know,
Look at this
it's a dick
side
pill. But so with what you're talking about, doesn't it seem like we should have more of a relationship between fiscal and monetary policy?
Well, so the reason that they're independent in the first place is so politicians, so there's like two threads here. So the reason that they're independent in the first place is because they don't want politicians to be all short term and be like, oh, I have to get reelected. Like, let's nudge the Fed around so everything looks good and people want to reelect me. And the issue with that is like you have these elected representatives now coming out. I think it's Sherrod Brown from Ohio came out the other day. Somebody else came out this morning and was like, hey, no, the Fed, you got to chill out. And they're not supposed to be doing that. Like the Fed does report to Congress. I think it's semi-annual or maybe it's semi-annual.
Okay.
And they tell Congress how things are going. But now you have these elected, Hickenlooper from Colorado wrote a letter to
your guy, John Hickenlooper.
yeah, he wrote a letter to Jerome Powell, and he said, I write to urge the Federal Reserve to pause and seriously consider the negative consequences of again raising interest rates. And so Sherrod Brown asked Jerome Powell to slow down interest rate rises in a letter 1 week before the FOMC meeting. The FOMC meeting is next week, and 2 weeks before congressional elections. And so you have this independent body pseudo-independent body. I always say pseudo, and people get really mad, but
Fuck. If you get mad about Swedo, fuck you.
I know, it's so anyway, but so pseudo-independent body of the Federal Reserve that is supposed to be, insulated to a certain extent of the short-termism of the fiscal side. But yeah, so to your point about like Mary Daly maybe not addressing how the interlinkage between fiscal and monetary policy works.
Sorry, I wasn't throwing shade at your girl.
No,
Yeah.
it's okay. Well, so the Minneapolis Fed president also spoke to this a few weeks ago, and he was like, yeah, like if we had more supply side help, which would be fiscal policy, that would be great. And like fiscal policy could help with this by like helping mandate more housing being built, helping to figure out more regulation around labor allocation, like all of these different things, like supply chain, energy production, like all of that is a policy mandate that the Fed can't do. Like the Fed can't print oil, as everybody says. They can't print corn. So it's like
We should get him to do that.
I know, right? Yeah.
No, but so I think the problem for me is it doesn't have the intended the intended result they wanted, right? And it seems like the result we have is politicians like screaming at the Fed and being like, they're not fucking doing it. Like it's their job to fix it. And then you have the Fed going like, we're not getting enough help. And it's like, what? I feel like I'm like with divorced couple being like, just talk to each other.
Talk to each other. Yeah. Well, I mean, I really think that like midterms are a big problem. And I don't think it gets talked about enough is like
You're saying abolish midterms. Don't let people vote.
Oh my God. I don't even know what I think about the political system.
Okay.
But like, no, I don't think that.
No, I know.
I think
it's
people
just funny
should
to
be able
say.
to
I think the
vote.
midterms are a problem.
Yeah. Well, I think the mindset around midterms is the problem, where people are so distracted by re-election that they're not as focused on passing policy.
Right.
You know.
I've seen you. I told you I wanted to talk about I've seen you tweet at politicians.
I try not to do it because it's something that's useless. You're like yelling at a window or something, or at the mirror, maybe.
True.
Yeah.
Sometimes it just feels good, though.
I know, but then people yell at you too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But you just have to live with it,
Yeah.
I'm getting yelled at on Twitter right now, but it's okay.
About what?
Honestly, because I made fun of TikTok, it's fine.
Oh no! Oh, I'm on TikTok.
No, I never go on TikTok, and like someone sent me one, and it opens the app when you do it, and then I clicked out of it, and then it was whatever was on the home screen, and it was some like old song, so I clicked the sound, and I just was like, this is making me feel crazy because I just kept flipping through. Oh yeah, I just kept flipping through the sound. Obviously no, but it just makes you feel crazy. And
did people make fun of you because it's a bunch of girls?
No, people they think that I don't know that I clicked a sound. They're like, oh, he's so stupid. But it's fine.
Twitter is such a cesspool.
And people are like quote tweeting me and being like, oh yeah, like anyone can click the sound.
Oh my
and
God,
make it
no.
seem, but
You're getting dragged. Local man.
What does it say? Local man clicks on a trending sound.
Surprised
Is
people
surprised
having
people
fun
having
with the
fun with the
trend.
It was a dumb joke.
Don't make dumb jokes on Twitter.
That's the thing. Well, also, you never know like what people are gonna glom onto. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
like,
Oh yeah, for sure.
and it sucks because I'll write a tweet and I'll go, "Well, I did it. You're the funniest man in the world."
Oh,
And
they're
you
being
just
so nice to you.
You clicked on a sound of a dumbass. Of course, there's. Oh, yeah, I know. I know what I did. I like that you're getting so much pleasure out of everyone.
I mean, listen, people say all sorts of things to me, so it's nice to see someone else get you back.
But it's funny because I tell people like I like purposely don't. I feel like it's a, yeah, I see you go through it. Like being sincere on Twitter is like just,
Oh God.
it's like putting a kick me sign.
Did you
on your
see
back.
the girl who tweeted that she goes into the garden with her husband? And
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a perfect, like,
that was wild.
and people were screenshotting. So if, for those of you who don't know, I think she said like, there's nothing like waking up and going into my garden with my husband and drinking tea.
Yeah.
It's the most relaxing thing.
Yeah, and we can do it for hours every morning.
And the thing is, once a tweet hits anywhere above like, I don't know, 1,000 likes, it starts to like hit the algorithm and it starts to hit just the most,
Yeah.
just creatures who come out of the,
That's a good word for it.
and they
There it is.
start picking it apart and they think
They take it so personally.
it's such a sweet tweet.
Yeah.
She loves hanging out with her husband, but then what happened was some guy, like, people were like, actually, a lot of people can't afford
Yeah.
gardens. And this is like,
which is like valid, I guess, but
yeah, so.
it's also like not everything in the world is going to apply to you. You're not like the main character of the universe.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes this is just for my followers who know that I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
And I like to scroll through the same sound and make it sound stupid.
So I can't believe it. Like imagine like making a whole tweet like being like you're stupid. Like
That's another. Imagine taking the time
Yeah,
to.
yeah.
Yeah. Hey guys, we want to take a quick break to thank a sponsor of today's episode, HelloFresh. With HelloFresh, you get farm-fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. Green Chef Every Plate is now owned by HelloFresh, and with a wider array of meal plans to choose from, there's something for everyone. I love switching between the brands, and now my listeners can enjoy both brands at a discount with me. Have your pumpkin spice and eat it too with a rotating selection of fall-inspired items from HelloFresh Market. From brunch kits to a fall dessert board, you'll find everything you need for all your favorite autumn occasions, like tailgating, Oktoberfest, and more. With HelloFresh, ingredients travel from the farm to your doorstep in less than 7 days, so you know they're fresh. Plus, pre-portioned ingredients make cooking a snap and cut down on food waste. Have a packed fall calendar? HelloFresh's quick and easy meals like their 20-minute recipes or low prep and easy cleanup options mean you'll spend less time in the kitchen and more time with your loved ones. Guys, you know I love my beans. I'm all about the beans, baby. Everyone knows that. And it's soup season. There's also nothing I love more than soup season. All right, I love getting cozy with soup. So I made the one-pot Mexicali black bean soup, and it was the perfect fall dinner. I had people over. Ben was not invited. Plus, it was super easy to make. I was able to put it all together in just 20 minutes with minimal cleanup time. With 30-plus weekly recipes to choose from, HelloFresh has something for everyone. Easily customize your meals by swapping proteins or sides, upgrading to choice proteins, or adding protein to a veggie meal. Go to HelloFresh.com/Trill65 and use code Trill65 for 65% off plus free shipping. That's HelloFresh.com/TRILL65 and use code Trill65 for 65% off plus free shipping. HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. But anyway, as someone who takes the time to tweet at people,
that's so true. I basically did tweet at her and was like, "You're stupid."
we got here because you were yelling at us.
Because I was that. I was this.
No, but I was. That was kind of when. But that. Not to joke about it, I was genuinely a little bit curious because I think she was saying, I think
She being Elizabeth Warren.
yes. Oh, I wish I had the tweet, but she was basically responding to like Jerome Powell's decision to hike rates, and she was basically like, "This is irresponsible.
Yeah.
That." Or I think when he went to go speak to Congress, she was asking him like,
Yeah.
"Can the Fed
asking crazy stuff? Yeah.
can the Fed do anything about
Yeah.
oil prices? Can the Fed do anything about the crisis in Ukraine? Can they do anything about corporate profits? Can they do, you know what I mean?"
Yeah.
And he was like, "No, of course not." And her point being, those are the real causes of inflation. You can't actually do anything about it.
Yeah.
And you said,
Well, so the tweet was, she tweeted out, Federal Reserve Chair Powell just announced another extreme interest rate hike while forecasting higher unemployment. I've been warning that Chair Powell's Fed would throw millions of Americans out of work, and I fear that he's already on the path to doing so. And this was in September, so a month ago.
yeah.
This is
The economy's
like
changed.
a year ago.
It's always
Jeez.
changing. That's the fun thing about it.
But I said to her, this is an incredibly irresponsible thing to tweet. And people underneath were like, I disagree with you. Like, why do you not like this? And basically the reason
And for the record, I don't disagree with you. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Because
Well, it's okay if you disagree.
Yeah, no, I don't. I was just curious.
Yeah. Well, I think the reason I said it in the first place was it's sort of like this is what they've been mandated to do. And I don't think the original tweet had enough context on like why they're doing what they're doing. So like the way that she is saying it is like the Fed is doing this major rate hike, everybody, and they're going to put you out of work. And I've been saying that they shouldn't do that. But it's like that is the toolkit that they have. And I don't mean to be like a Fed apologist about it, but like I do think that if you're an elected representative, you have to provide that additional context to people so they know why all these dominoes are tipping. Just saying, hey, everybody, he's putting you out of work. Sorry. Like that doesn't help.
Right. Yeah. She needs to include the real truth is that we actually won't do anything in Congress.
That they're also responsible.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that would be great. I mean, I'm sure you saw... this was a while ago at this point. Like Joe Biden did like a little Wall Street Journal op-ed. I'm sure he wrote it, but he was basically like, and I'm going to let the Fed do their thing. Yeah. They're going to lead.
Yeah.
And he was basically like,
I remember.
I am not doing this. Yeah. The Fed is doing it.
Well, in my interview with Mary Daly, she said that like half of the inflation comes from the demand side, half comes from the supply side. So like they're responsible for half of the fixing half of the inflation. The government is, if you go by that mindset, right? So that's also the issue, is that they are responsible for fixing it. But the Fed is technically responsible for fixing it. So it's easy for them to be like, well, the Fed is responsible for price stability. That's why they're there.
Honestly, now that you're saying it, I'm kind of like, if I was the Fed, I'd be like, fuck you guys. I'm tired of you guys yelling at me. We're just going to hit the button. We're going to fucking do it. Okay?
People have said that.
We'll bring prices down.
Yeah,
if you want us
know.
to.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
The government won't do anything. You guys are screaming at me.
Yeah. It's such a hard job. I can't even imagine. Yeah.
What do you think about this? We parent trap the U.S. government and the Fed.
Okay.
We get them in the same room. We make them fall in love. And work together to solve the problem.
I think that would be awesome. It'd be functional, which would be a good change.
It'll be what?
Functional.
Right? I like that.
Yeah.
Can we talk a little bit more about the the other side of it, though? Like, what do you think about the people who say, there is just like, we've pumped too much money into the economy, into Wall Street. Yeah. There is a part of me that finds that... argument a little bit persuasive. When you talk about like a lot of money coming out of like crypto and, I mean, also when we talked about this on the show, you see those headlines of, and it's a great headline, the Americans have lost $9 trillion over the past whatever, right? But really that's coming, I think it was like 8 point something trillion was from like the top 10% probably.
Yeah.
Average Americans aren't as exposed to the...
Well, the top 1% of Americans own 50% of stocks.
Yeah, or I think and you were saying the top 10% own 50, and then the top 1% own like 89%, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or did I say it wrong?
Oh no, I don't remember exactly, but that doesn't make sense mathematically. Anyway, but yeah.
We're not a math show. We're not an MIT fucking.
But essentially, right? Like, and this is also what, not to keep on bringing up Mary and
No,
our
bring up
interview.
Mary as much as you want. All right?
My interview,
Mary's
but
great.
that was also what she was saying, is that like the distribution of assets is not equal, like houses, stocks, all that stuff.
Right,
So- But what you're saying is like, did the Fed inflate the bubble a little bit too much?
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think part of the argument for people who are talking about it in that way, they were like, we are going to have to pay for this at some point. It might as well be now.
Oh my God. I don't. So I kind of hate that mindset. And I guess it makes sense. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, we need a recession to like clean out the gutters of the economy, like all this stuff. And it's like, I don't know if we necessarily need that. I do think that there's been excess, and like, a little bit of a pullback is good for the reallocation of excess. Like, the valuations that were being attached to some of these crypto companies were just unsustainable. But that's also the fault of maybe not the Federal Reserve, but also VC, PE firms, hedge funds, right, who are allocating this capital. So I think it's sort of like, if you want to place the blame, you have to do it in a tiered way, like do one of those tier charts,
Right.
and point to where the blame can go. But I do think you're right. Like, there has been excess in the economy. And a pullback is good for sort of clearing the brush out a little bit. But I don't think that we have to have a full-blown recession.
Right. And I think I don't think they're doing it in a callous way when they say like, oh, we just need a recession, like clear things out, reset. I think sometimes it's a thing of, be realistic. I mean, the stuff we're talking about where, getting them to use fiscal policy in a effective way is, it feels like fantasy. I mean, it feels like, I think we'd all love it if we had a efficient governing body in the country that, could efficiently manage markets and stuff like that. But I don't think we have that. And so sometimes you're like, yeah, fuck it. Push the button.
Yeah. Well, and I think also like the younger generation, so like people under 30, under 35 even, they've been.
Thank you for that. That's going to go a long way for me. I'm 33.
Oh,
and
are
you
you?
said young people under 30,
I think
and then you said 35.
Yeah, because you and Ben were talking about that on the show, and somebody was like, why is Ben older than my dad? Because he's older, right?
Oh, he's like 40. It's disgusting. No, I think he's 35.
Well, okay, so people, I mean, and everybody, right?
But young people, under
Young
35.
people, yeah, under 35. And, oh man, the train totally left the station.
Sorry.
So yeah, under 35, a lot of frustration because like, like for me, I was born like right when the tech crisis was happening. So like you're born into a crisis, and then the financial crisis happens, a pandemic happens, there's a land war in Europe. And so I think for a lot of people, it's like, wow, like things are just like the system is always trending towards disorder, and there's just no escape. So like, why wouldn't we have a recession, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just been a constant.
Yeah.
Every time we begin to recover, they're like, we fucked it up again.
And there's a lot of financial nihilism too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And like the New York Times had a good article about that, where it's just like, why would I save for the future? Like there's a climate crisis. Like there's all this stuff that is concerning. So I think, yeah, to your point, if something good happened, and there's a lot of good things happening, but if something good happened, I think a lot of people would be like, it's just going to get bad again,
Speaking of that article, I mean, just from like real life, because I'm 33, and a lot of people my age are, getting married and starting to like decide about kids and stuff. And I went to New York, I think it was last August, right when that IPCC report came out about like, they were like, we fucked it. It's done. We're not going to make it. And, I was meeting up with people I hadn't seen in a long time and talking to them. Everyone was just so like despondent, and they were, a couple of my friends were like, what have I been saving money for? I was like, I'm just going to start spending it. I don't fucking care. Like none of it's going to be here. And my one friend said he's been microdosing retirement, and he really he's been traveling a good amount, just spending all his money.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are in that boat, especially after being, locked inside for a couple of years with the pandemic and stuff. I think
Right.
there's a lot of excess demand for that sort of lifestyle. Yeah.
Yeah. Before we move on to anything else, we jumped so far ahead because
Yeah,
we started
sorry.
talking about. No, it was my fault.
I brought up the labor market.
No, and I go crazy when we talk about labor. I can't help. If we're talking about labor, I'm gonna go fucking nutty.
Yeah, no, that's it. It's really interesting.
So, but I did want you to talk about the. Let's go back to the kind of world economy a little bit and talk about the dollar wrecking ball, and maybe you can explain that a little bit, because I think it's important to understand that this is not as much as Joe Biden with the ice cream talking about.
Yeah.
He's worried about the American economy. It's affecting the whole world.
Yeah.
And I think we have a little bit of great. If you go to slide 40, Kyla's going to tell us a little bit about dollar ominoes.
Yes, yeah. So when the Fed raises rates, there's all sorts of consequences. And basically one of the consequences, it's not necessarily a bad thing until it gets really bad, is the US dollar. Everybody wants it because the United States is like, somebody said that the United States is the cleanest shirt and a dirty laundry basket right now.
So you're picking them out, smelling them, and you're like,
yeah.
Mm-mm.
But the United States smells okay, right?
You're like, Japan?
Japan's a super dirty shirt right now.
You're like, that needs a wash.
Yeah.
Also, as I started to do the joke, I'm like, this is a really hard joke to do because I don't want to like list the country and go stinky, what I mean?
Yeah.
I was like, tough.
Sorry, I didn't help you with that either.
No,
yeah, it was my fault. Yeah.
So, yeah, we should honestly cut that.
I didn't say stinky.
No.
Oh, I don't even remember. That's the problem with all
the analogies. You end up
Oh yeah,
inadvertently
yeah, and I'm a big fan of them. Like if you read, somebody actually emailed me once, and they're like, "You got to stop with these metaphors."
Well, it'll help if we go Japan economy.
It smells
stinky.
No,
not like people. Am I making it worse?
Just move on.
dollar dominoes. But so when the Fed raises rates, that creates a safe haven status out of the dollar because everyone is like, wow, I want to have dollar denominated assets. So there's outsized demand for the dollar, which creates the dollar go up sort of thesis. But when that happens, that puts a lot of pressure on emerging market nations because they have dollar denominated debt. And so all of a sudden that becomes more expensive to finance. And then also energy imports become more expensive for those nations. And then it also puts a lot of pressure on corporations, domestic corporations here in the United States that do business abroad. And so the dollar, if it becomes strong enough, it just creates all these other pressure points in the global economy, which it has been doing.
Right.
And that worsens everything for everybody. Yeah.
Can we put the next slide up, and this might help. This is a very fun.
Oh, my comic.
Is it okay if we show it?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, it's in my newsletter.
And look, if you're an audio listener, you'll be able to follow along very easily. But Kyla has made it very easy for us to see the impact of the stronger dollar.
Yeah.
So she's got a picture of Jerome Powell here from the Fed Reserve raising rates to fight inflation, and then we have the world saying, "Wow, the dollar's looking pretty strong and hot right now. I might invest." And then, oh man, can we zoom in a little bit?
Oh, you can't read that?
Okay, enough with this is becoming a fucking ageist show. I wear contacts and, there we go. Look at that. Now that I can read. The world. Wow, the dollar is increasing the cost of our energy imports and dollar-denominated debt. This is bad. U.S. corporations, our export costs are skyrocketing. We got Janet Yellen here from the Treasury. We see the dollar ripping right now, but we cannot intervene because the Fed is going to continue hiking. Therefore, our efforts moot.
Yeah.
And then the Fed, also a stronger dollar, helps fight inflation because reduced import costs for us. And then the U.S. dollar, I only grow in strength.
Right. Yeah.
And so this could have a huge impact on the world economy. I mean, you're really seeing it in emerging markets right now already, right?
Yeah.
I think Sri Lanka is probably the worst case. Everything's getting way more expensive for them, servicing their debt. Energy is a big one. Mm-hmm. But even a country like Japan is having a lot of trouble.
Yeah. The yen has lost 50% against the dollar this year.
Which is bad for the Japanese. But I'm going.
But you're going.
Yeah.
So good for you.
So I hope it turns around in 2 weeks.
Once I leave.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but it's really
And is
concerning.
part of it because they're the Bank of Japan? Is that what they're?
Yeah.
Okay. The Bank of Japan is not hiking rates. Is that right?
They're doing easing, yeah. So they're essentially in their bond market buying up all the bonds in order to do yield curve control on their 10-year.
And so why is that? Like, because wouldn't it ease some of these problems a little bit if they were to raise rates as well?
It would just create a whole bunch of different issues. And they've been easing for so long that I don't even think they would know how to tighten. So they've just always kept this plan.
Okay.
And like what's interesting is because they're in the bond market, like buying up bonds, now there's no longer demand for their bonds besides coming from the Bank of Japan, because the Bank of Japan is going to be top buyer. So even if they did step back, and we're actually experiencing this a little bit here in the United States with the Treasury market, because the Fed is stepping back from buying up mortgage-backed securities and other bonds, and that's creating sort of this hole of structural demand in the Treasury market, liquidity issues around that. And so going back to the Bank of Japan, if they all of a sudden step back from their bond market, like it'd be like, who's going to buy this stuff?
Right.
Yeah.
And everyone's going, I want those sweet, sweet U.S. bonds.
Yeah. Well, to a certain extent, yeah. But like, so the Fed is just a huge buyer of bonds. And then commercial banks are like, well, I don't know, man. Like, we're kind of nervous right now. We're not going to be buying up as much stuff. And then foreign investment is drying up because the dollar is so strong. And so there is sort of an issue around structural demand for U.S. Treasuries too.
I love picturing that. I really hope like these execs and politicians are talking the way you say. I don't know, man. These.
I think they are.
Should we jump into crypto a little bit, because we're running out of time? But I really want.
We?
No, we'll make it. But I just want to. Number one.
Didn't even talk about the housing market.
Oh shit! Which would you rather talk about?
You choose. It's your show.
Oh man, don't make me choose between my two favorite things: the housing market and
A
crypto.
house or crypto?
A
lot of people.
Maybe we could do both.
Yeah, sure. Well, we don't have to. Yeah.
Let's jump into housing a little bit. Tell me what's
I
going on.
just think it's interesting.
It is interesting.
Yeah, and important.
Yeah. Okay, so let's do the housing market.
Yeah.
Tell me what's going on in the housing market.
Well, so house prices are sort of going down. Rents are going down a little bit. But that's also another interesting thing. Is like, so the Fed's been raising rates, right, in order to battle inflation, and where most of the impact is showing up is in the housing market, because mortgage rates went from like 3.5% all the way up to 7%.
Right.
So if you wanted to get a house, you're just like basically straight out of luck right now. Yeah.
Because that means you are seeing housing prices come down, but that doesn't mean it's necessarily more affordable.
Right.
Because,
Yeah. It's rate of change, not level.
Because with these, with these new interest rates, you're going to be paying a lot per month for less house.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So affordability has just completely cratered.
And and inflation is slowing on houses, but they're still more expensive than they were a year ago, right? They're still
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Everything is still more expensive. There's just a lot of supply constraints, and people don't want to, because there's uncertainty around the economy. People don't want to move, and they don't want to, like 32 million. So there's like houses and rents, and I'm kind of like mixing up the two a little bit, but like 32 million people have no mortgage, right? So they're not going to move.
Right.
And so that's a total.
Like that means they've paid off their home.
Yeah.
They don't have a mortgage payment.
Right.
They just own
the home.
an asset
Can you
that's going to
imagine?
keep appreciating. No, I truly can't imagine.
I know. Yeah, but they own it outright. They pay no money to live there.
Except property taxes, maybe.
Well, yeah, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
But fuck them.
Not California. California's weird about anyway.
Yeah.
But so there's those people. They're not going to sell their homes. They're not going to move. Like, why would they? And then like I think it's a third of the housing market is owned by boomers, and they're probably not going to move either, because like, you know, they're pretty much strapped in for a little bit. And so there's just not a lot of supply coming to market, and there's also not a lot of supply being built, because home builders are like, whoa, you know, things are pretty wacky out here. We're not going to build up new homes. Like, who's going to move in? And so like that's also an issue too.
And is it more expensive for them to build right now too?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's more expensive for them to build, and they're worried that people will not buy them once they're built.
Yeah. And so, yeah, there's a lot of worries about like the actual materials that are being used to build these homes now too. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So the raising rates. So
How does it all tie together?
Yeah. I mean, it's the intended effect was for it to help, and that's something Mary Daly was talking about, right?
Yeah.
When she and that's when I'm like, well, I don't know if this is the most convincing argument, especially with everything you're talking about. We have, maybe prices are coming down a little bit, but affordability is not.
Right.
builders don't want to build because it's expensive and they're worried people won't move in.
Yeah.
So I mean, what is the end goal with like where are we gonna shake out? Am I ever gonna be able to own a home?
I mean, home prices are going down, and it'll depend on like how supply hits the market. Like I think the biggest thing is like people feeling a little bit more confident again, because like that's a huge part of what drives the overall economy. And
Never feel confident.
well, I don't know what to tell you there. It's neither do I.
But I don't think it has anything to do with the Fed.
But I don't know. Maybe it's to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's put it on the Fed.
The Fed is why I feel bad.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It'll be interesting. Like it'll kind of depend on when the Fed decides to pivot. So that's actually a really important point that I can't believe I didn't talk about till now.
I can't believe we haven't talked about
I know,
pivot either.
but like it's actually really important because the Fed is probably, the meeting is next week. They're definitely going to raise rates by 75 basis points. Nick from the Wall Street Journal said it. But the question is, they're probably going to slow down into December and only do 50 basis points. And so we're starting to see the Fed decide, pivoting a little bit, not pivoting. Pivoting is not the right word, but slowing down their
yeah, but I mean, it feels crazy to even call that
a slowdown.
Yeah, I mean,
know.
after
Yeah.
Also, if you have that slide, there's a really good, if you can find it, it shows how quickly we've raised rates. It's towards the beginning.
Yeah.
And it's really, if you go up top, we'll be able to slide down to it. It's a really great chart because it really puts into perspective how quickly they've been raising these rates. And no,
that's another important chart though. All these charts are important. Right there. So above Jerome Powell's head.
Here we go.
Yeah.
They're really raising rates, and here, so this is the fastest rate hiking cycle since the early 1980s. And if you see, you can see that.
Yeah, the blue line.
In different years, we've had more of these kind of slow, gradual hikes, and for ours, we're just going basically straight up.
Yeah, vertical.
And so when they talk about like, oh, we're actually slowing down, we're pivoting, you're like, that's insane.
Well, they're going from like 150 miles per hour on the freeway to like 90 or 100. Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I mean,
You'll still be cheering them on at the FOMC. You'll have your Mary Daly jersey on.
Yeah, well, so like I get called a Fed simp a lot. and I think to a certain extent, like things have to happen the way that they're happening because that's how they happen. But there's also, it's just like there is room to be frustrated about the impact that this is having, and frustration about the narrow tube that the Fed is forcing themselves down to try and like impact the economy, nudging things around when there's more direct ways to fix the issues that we have. So I think that is the issue with this graph, is that they are going fast and furious mode, but it's also like if you're driving the car with no direction, unless, the only way to end it is to crash.
They're like, fuck it, I'll get in and press the gas.
Yeah.
How many analogies have we done?
Like I said, I'm a big fan of analogies.
Yeah. You did a great one when, a great TikTok when they were doing the hiking. And you were like, you were pretending to be a hiker. Very fun. Yeah. There's been a lot of memes about, my favorite one was the shaking hands meme. It's like two things and then the one thing down below.
With the really strong arms?
No.
Okay.
Shit.
No, it's okay.
I'm 33, so I explain memes I see. I'm just like your grandma.
Yeah.
I saw one, it's two hands shaking. No, but it was like the Fed. Guys on dating apps and then two hands shaking and then hiking. On the bottom, hiking.
I think my friend Joey made that.
Holy shit, Joey's behind the hiking meme.
Yeah, because it was like guys on Tinder.
Yeah, guys on dating.
That's
profile.
so funny. Yeah, my friend Joey. Shout out Joey.
He has
really
a great
good newsletter. But yeah, no, it's true. Hiking is a big part of their life right now for both groups.
Should we do a little bit of crypto?
Yeah. Okay, crypto.
Okay. Play the crypto thing. We won't see it. It's in post.
Oh.
But it's sick when it goes. Cheyenne made this cool artwork.
Oh, I see.
Beep, boop,
beep.
And we haven't played. That's why when you said you had stuff to talk about, I was like, that's great. We haven't done it in so long.
Yeah.
And so I wanted you to give me a little update. Because all I see is like, Do Kwon is on the run.
Yeah, which is
fucking fun. Like, he's saying, he's sorry.
Yeah.
It's not going well.
Never said sorry.
Yeah, maybe he'll say sorry.
Yeah.
But you want to talk about Sam Bankman-Fried.
Yeah.
So tell me and some regulations.
Yeah. Well, so regulation is like the key right now for crypto to be accepted into society. And like probably the future of crypto does hinge on a certain extent to proper regulation. So Sam Bankman-Fried from FTX, FTX is a crypto exchange. He's been really working on regulation, but the criticism of him is that he's basically making regulation for FTX to succeed rather than like the entire industry to succeed. And he also owns Alameda Ventures, which is like a crypto venture company. And they're buying up the distressed assets of these crypto companies that went belly up because of Do Kwon,
Right.
because of that implosion. So he's kind of like everywhere.
Monopolizing crypto.
Yeah.
Now explain this a little bit. Maybe this is going to sound very naive of me, but Sam Bankman-Fried is not a politician.
No,
So when you say he's working on regulations, what does that mean?
so it means he's just
Exactly.
like there. And like,
Is he like lobbying?
I don't know if lobbying.
Well, the last time I did see him, I think he was on stage with like Bill Clinton and
Oh yeah, the Bahamas thing.
yeah.
Not Tony Robbins.
Oh,
Who's the other
Tony
guy?
Blair.
Yeah, but who's the football guy? Anyway, who just
I don't know.
Okay, anyway.
I don't know sports.
He just got divorced. Okay,
Not-
anyway. But yeah, they were all there, I think. And but yeah, so Sam Bankman-Fried, not a politician, but the regulatory space of crypto right now, a lot of people are paying attention to it. So I believe he's just there, like helping guide it, because he's testified in front of Congress before about what's going on.
But isn't regulation kind of like antithetical to the whole crypto? I don't want to say mindset.
Yeah, ethos.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yep. But like, in order for something to, and this is just like one of those things where it has to be how it is sort of deal. In order for it to be accepted and for people not to get arrested, like what happened with Tornado Cash, which.
But I
was-
like when crypto guys get arrested.
I guess I'm kind of a crypto guy.
Oh, I wouldn't want
Yeah.
you to get arrested.
I don't want that either.
Yeah.
But I do think like there's been some people who probably should be arrested.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the whole space requires regulation in order for it to be integrated properly into society. And the question is, should it be integrated? And like that's, I mean, I just think there's a lot of like existential questions that the industry is going to have to answer about itself moving forward. Like, do they want to be integrated with society? Do they want to be a fringe finance thing? Are they the digitalization of finance or the financialization of the digital? Like, there's all these questions that they're going to have to figure out. Yeah.
Right. And so, but would you say it's kind of analogous to the stock market? Like, you know, we have the SEC and all these regulations that people have to abide by before they enter into the market. Is that kind of what they're talking about when we're talking about regulating crypto?
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, like are the tokens that get issued securities, and how does that sort of impact how they trade if they are securities? Because there's a whole lot of paperwork associated with that, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
And do you have any insight on what Sam Bankman-Fried would like, or is it too, are you not sure what he's...
I mean, essentially, it would be a lot of like KYC stuff, so know your customer, and that would require a lot of information on, and I think this is right, but essentially it would require a lot of information on the customers that are being associated with different crypto apps, which would completely tear apart DeFi, which is decentralized finance, which allows for people to be pseudo-anonymous and not have to worry about having their identity broadcasted to the world.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anonymity will be our final...
Anonymity. I should have tried.
It is really...
I always wanted to say that word, and like I always want to say pseudo-anonymous, but there's always like a break in my...
Pseudo-anonymous.
Huh?
Pseudo-anonymous.
No, it's
No.
yeah, but there's always like a break in my brain. Like, do you have words like that? Where
Oh,
I'm like,
yeah.
yeah. So and then
You know what's the hardest word in the world? Indefatigable.
yeah, I won't. I don't know. I don't. And yeah.
But like I literally sat at home and I was like, indefatigable. Now I can say it whenever I want.
Yeah.
Good word.
Just fold it up. What does it mean?
It means like unable to
Persisting.
tire.
Yeah,
Like you
that
can
is a
keep
good
working
word.
forever.
So not fatiguing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Just like how crypto.
But it doesn't make sense though, right? Because they have in and da. So if you were fatigable, it would mean you would be able to get tired. But if you were defatigable, you wouldn't be. And then they put an in there.
Unfatigable.
Indefatigable.
Indefatigable.
Indefatigable. Read that word in Animal Farm.
Oh yeah, that's how I learned a lot of words too. Is reading, and so like,
yeah,
I've
it's the
never
best
heard
way to
them.
learn words.
No, it's not, because you never hear them say out loud, and so when you try to say them in public,
No, but that's okay. But that's great and fine. I have a
No.
thing where like if you make fun of someone for pronouncing something wrong, it's because they read it. So like
Yeah.
you're being like, oh, what, you fucking read that word? I just heard someone say it to me and I was like, that sounds cool. I'll fucking say it.
yeah.
But you read it, so it's like,
I don't think a lot of people make that connection though.
I do.
That's,
I always say, if you pronounce a word wrong, like,
oh
who cares?
well.
At least you know the word.
Yeah.
Indefatigable.
You can't hear it because you don't have your headphones in, but he just hit it again.
Who just hit it again?
Hit
what?
Our tech,
Indefatigable.
Oh, hit the
he
pronunciation.
keeps hitting it.
Yeah,
Indefatigable.
I don't have anything in my ears. I can't.
Yeah.
Just only my thoughts.
Was there anything else you really wanted to get to, or you think we hit a lot?
I think we hit everything: the housing market, crypto. I mean, there's like so much to talk. Like bonds are really interesting right now, which is like a weird sentence to say, but bonds are really cool. But I mean, yeah, I think this is good. Energy markets. There's so much to discuss.
Well, we can always have you back on,
yeah.
and I'm so happy you came.
Mhm.
This was so fun.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for also everyone go follow Kyla
My
on
newsletter.
go follow her newsletter. Oh yeah, plug anything you want. I mean,
Yeah.
she's the best source on the economy out there. She makes it fun, interesting. She's honestly, you are like, I don't know how you keep so many things in your head. It's very impressive.
So I was actually thinking about my thoughts this morning.
You were thinking about your thoughts this morning.
Yeah, because I was like, man, I was like typing out notes for this, and I was like, I really do feel like that guy that's like drawing the lines on that meme, like that guy, because like my brain is trying to like connect the dots in my head. So like I have this big visualization in my head of like all the different things that are going on. Like here's the bond market, and like here.
Oh yeah. Do you ever feel like you have the perfect thing in your head, but you're like, oh, there's no way I can get it?
Yeah,
I
no,
hate
all
that.
the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, if I could just open it up, you could see it and you'd be like,
Or you just crack the
oh.
skull open.
Yeah, we should all
Yeah.
crack our heads open.
Yeah.
Okay, tell them where they can find you because you're
Yeah.
an invaluable resource if
Yes.
you care about this stuff.
So Kyla.substack.com. I'm on TikTok at KylaScan, Twitter at KylaScan, Instagram at KylaScan. I have a YouTube channel as well, and then I have a podcast called Let's Appreciate. So I think that's everything.
And they're all fantastic.
Yeah, there's me with Mary and my watermelon thesis.
Yeah, her
Yeah.
stuff is so fun. I really mean it. And she makes it very easy to understand and keep up with everything.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on, Kyla.
Thanks for having me.
Also, Ben is not here, but we do have, I do want to let people know, we are still doing After Hours, and we have a very special guest. We have famous author Philip Matteries. He's going to be talking about his book, Horn If You're Honky. It's you're going to want to stick around for that. It's a real treat for me to get to talk to one of my favorite authors. So I will see you in After Hours. Okay, bye.
This week on After Hours.
And you keep tossing me into these after dark things.
Is that famous author?
Yeah.
Phil Matteries? I'll get cucked in
I want my-
Japan.
I'm
Oh,
getting
cucked.
cucked.
Cucked. We are best friends. That's going to hurt a lot of people out there. They think me and Ben are best friends.
All right. Did people know that I introduced you guys?
Sign up on tmgstudios.tv to watch the full bonus episode.